Hello and welcome to our webinar about power quality, especially the new software WinPQ-Mobil version 8. My name is Thomas Schwarz and I welcome you. And today I'm going to talk about at least 3 different questions I'm going to answer. The first one is WinPQ-Mobil 8. What is new? I'm talking about new features, new functionalities within the software. The next question I'm going to answer is WinPQ-Mobil Legacy. What's that? So I'm going to talk about this in a few minutes. And last but not least, PQ boxes. Are there any new features that come with the new software? If you have any questions or comments during the webinar, feel free and type them into the chat function in your window, and I promise you we will get back to you as soon as possible, either during the webinar or later on after the webinar. I will answer every single question. So, first of all, WinPQ-Mobil 8. There's something that is important to consider. The old module PQBox 100, which was discontinued back in 2021, is no longer supported with the WinPQ-Mobil 8 version. So with WinPQ-Mobil 8, you won't be able to configure your PQBox 100. You cannot access the online live data, and you are not able to transfer measurement files from the PQBox to your PC. In the past, we had sometimes, whenever we released new software versions, testing takes a lot of time. So we had to make the decision, okay, testing, especially with the PQBox 100, was a lot of effort and very time consuming. So we decided that for future WinPQ-Mobil versions, the PQBox 100 won't be able to communicate with the software anymore. Old drivers and cybersecurity and stuff like that, they play minor roles, but testing effort and new, fresh software which will provided by us to you in short amounts of time are the main decisions for that. Nevertheless, you are always able to operate your PQBox 100 and to transfer files, to configure and to view online data with the WinPQ-Mobil 7.1 legacy version. So the legacy version can be installed in parallel on your PC. So this was the latest version before we released WinPQ-Mobil 8, and with all the features, some minor bug fixes, and we introduced the legacy version for you, which can be installed in parallel to the WinPQ-Mobil 8 version, so you can still operate and configure your PQBox 100 with the WinPQ-Mobil legacy version. You can download this very easy at ievele.com. Go to Power Quality Mobile under the download section, and there you can find software and apps, WinPQ-Mobil, and you immediately find both versions. So the WinPQ-Mobil version 8 and the legacy version. Something I want to point out is beside the PQBox 100, which has been cancelled with the WinPQ-Mobil version 8, please always update the firmware version of your PQ boxes when you update the WinPQ-Mobil software. WinPQ-Mobil software always provides the latest firmware versions for all of the PQ boxes. So you only need to download WinPQ-Mobil 8 in this case, and this comes with all the new features and updates for all the PQ boxes as well. And updating and upgrading is now even easier. I'll show you in a minute. We had to improve this a little bit because in the past there we frequently had some issues, especially in industrial applications where there are a lot of PQ boxes applied and many different people using the PQ boxes. And one person updated WinPQ-Mobil and also upgraded the latest version of the firmware for one of their PQ boxes, and then the PQ box, only one, had the latest firmware version and the new functionalities. But older WinPQ-Mobil versions were not able to read the data from the new firmware version of the PQ box correctly because there were some new features that were not known back then when the old version of WinPQ-Mobil was released. So sometimes they opened measurement files and everything was empty. So this was sometimes very challenging, and people didn't understand that with an old software, importing new data from a newer firmware version sometimes caused these minor issues. So now we decided that if you want to open a measurement file from a newer firmware version, you will get a notification that this file is newer than your own WinPQ-Mobil version. So please always update the WinPQ Mobil, and if you do so, please always update the firmware of the PQ boxes as well. So this is quite easy. Now I show you. If you go to the box setup, and I connect my PQ box, for example, I got a PQ box 50 connected, and the upgrade section was tidied up a little bit. So now with just one click, I can update the firmware version. And if you, for example, get a Wi-Fi upgrade for a PQ box 150 or another upgrade for a better functionality, even with the license codes, it's way easier now. It's more pleasantly appealing. It's easier to find. You just enter the 16-digit code, one more click, and all the new functionalities of the PQ box may be unleashed. So you can easy update or upgrade your PQ box within WinPQ-Mobil. So this is way easier than before. The first thing I'm going to talk about with WinPQ-Mobil 8 is PQ reports. So if you look at this PQ report and focus on the harmonics, then you see that the blue bars are above the limit line and the red bars are below the limit line. So is this okay or is this not okay? In the past, we had always questions from customers, or if you create a PQ report and provide this report to customers, then they sometimes ask, well, it's okay, but the blue bars are above the limit value. So this has to do with the percent quantiles that are mentioned in many standards. And now with the new WinPQ-Mobil 8, we provide clear symbols and a legend, and we provide clarity. So now if you got the same measurement data, blue bars above, there's the limit line, and with a green check or red cross and the legend, which is also included, you get immediately information on what do I see and are these values okay or not. So in this case, for example, this was a PQ report according to EN 50160, and with the 95% quantiles, which are represented by the red columns here, they have to be below the limit line. The maximum values, represented by the blue columns, they may be above the limit line, and that's okay. You can decide whether you want to go with the percent quantiles or not, depending on the standards. So if you disable the percent quantiles, then you get the red columns only, and the limit line always applies to the percent quantiles in this case, and this is red now. So this is in this case 100% quantile. I show you how to do that. So I close this one, and if I open a norm evaluation, it just takes a little bit, then PQMobil automatically provides or opens a new window, and I see, oh, there was a lot going on here. And it's still calculating. And with the red crosses or checks, I can see immediately whether these values are okay or not. And even here with the small I, the red upper corner, I see the legend popping up with information on the graph itself. Even if I print out the report, the legend is included below these columns. So you will find the legend everywhere where it's necessary. If you go to Setup, Report Settings, you can decide whether you want to go for the maximum values or whether you want to evaluate the percent quantiles. I check the percent quantiles and let WinPQMobil automatically check all the values against the new settings. And now this page looks differently. Now here you can see the blue bars and the blue columns with the maximum values. And on the legend you can see what is being displayed in this diagram, the maximum values and the quantiles. So this is quite easy right now. I also opened the WinPQMobil legacy version. So this is the legacy version, and this was what the report looked like before. So I got blue bars, and yeah, they look differently. No explanation what is in there. So you had to know what a percent quantile is and the maximum values and which limit apply to which values. Okay. When talking about reports, sometimes maybe you saw something like this. You opened measurement data and you clicked on the norm evaluation, creating a report, evaluation, and everything was empty. And this may still happen. And there's a very simple reason for that. So the question is, why is my report empty? And the answer is, well, probably the nominal voltage was set incorrectly and was set wrong. So this leads to empty reports because there is something called flagging. This is demanded by the standard for Class A devices, by the way. And to make this a bit easier for you to find what's maybe wrong, you see this section, flagged values, in the information tab in WinPQ-Mobil immediately. So this is kind of an indicator that should ring the bell and say, oh, my report is empty. Oh, I excluded flagged values. Before I'm going to show you how to include the values, I will just explain very briefly what is flagging. So you can always exclude or include these values. But what is the flagging concept in general? So this is demanded by the power quality standard IEC 61000-4-30, and there's a so-called flagging concept. This is basically, its purpose is to avoid, like highlighted there, counting a single power quality event twice or 3 times or many more times in different parameters. So for example, there's also an example in here. So if you experience, for example, a single voltage dip that might also result in a frequency variation or in a flicker event or unbalance event and so on and so on. But originally, there's only one single power quality event. So to avoid counting 4 or 5 events instead of just a single one that caused everything, there's the so-called flagging concept. It needs to be implemented in every Class A device. And more on the flagging concept can also be seen in the Power Quality Report video mentioned here. There I explain what power quality events can flag other values and some practical examples. So I will show you just real quick. If you go for a DC measurement. So this was measured with the PQ box 300 in an industrial grid. Not just a normal industrial grid, this was a DC application. So there was the positive phase connected on phase L1, the negative one on phase L2, and in the middle there was the earth and neutral. So we got plus 350 volt DC and minus 350 volt DC. This can be seen in the voltage EU. And I open the timing diagram and I see, okay, there's something in here and something in here. Oh, this was a mistake that sometimes happens. There was a 4-wire system for AC applications, so the default setting, so to say, activated and not changed to DC 2-wire application. So WinPQ-Mobil automatically and the PQ box automatically measures phase 3 as well. And okay, phase 3 was loose, was not connected to anything, and it just measures nonsense. So this is around 6 volt and the nominal voltage was set to 350 volts. So, but I want WinPQ-Mobil to evaluate these two voltages. But I recorded phase L3 as well. If I do a right click and activate show flagging, I can immediately see, I zoom in a little bit, that all these values way below the 350 volt nominal voltage are flagged. And the flagged values, they result in a report. I click on report. And if they are included, like here, they result in a report which provides values. If I go to Setup, Report Settings, and exclude the flagged values, which is the default setting, then the report is empty. And if you open a measurement file and expect a report like this, but you get something like this, please check this one on the left side if the flagged values are excluded or included. And in this case, all 3,642 measuring intervals were flagged because phase 2 was around 6 volt and not 350 volts. Another situation is this one, for example. So another situation, I close all the windows. In this situation, we got a voltage and I open the minimum and maximum values. And here I can see 1, 2, 3 voltage dips that were introduced by the medium voltage grid above and not caused by the customer where we measured. So these 1, 2, 3 dips, they might result in a report like this. And this is, in this case, something you want, because you do not want to get your 3 voltage dips introduced from external power grid, want to disturb your measurement evaluation. So this is what the report should look like. Everything is there and the flagged values are excluded. So sometimes if you are just measuring in the public grid, for example, usually you go for the excluding the flagged values. But if you go into an industrial application where you do not know what to expect, excluding flagged values might hide everything that can be seen in the power quality report. So if you expect a lot of disturbances and some very, very crazy harmonics and a lot of voltage sags and swells, so then you might include the flagged values. So this is displayed here clearly now. Now, with the new version, we kind of clarified what's the NSEC and NMIN data. So you find the term NSEC in the measuring interval of the PQ box. So in this case, in this example, the PQ box 300 was set to 60 seconds measuring interval. And this is the NSEC interval. So the interval is 60 seconds and all the NSEC data is basically 60 seconds mean values. So the same with the N-minute data. This is for power measured variables. So the power interval usually is 15 minutes in most of the European countries, for example. This is also 15-minute time interval by the utilities to the measuring interval of the utilities. So this is by default set to 15 minutes as well. And there you got the N-min data. So NSEC and NMIN is now being displayed by the set values itself. So now you clearly see with WinPQ-Mobil 8, is this a 60-second timing interval or a 600-second or a 1 or 10-second, depends on your setting. as well as the power measurement data. Sometimes when you want to evaluate measurement data, you might want to evaluate different types of measurement data and different units. So you got, for example, a 10-second frequency measured variable. You got a n-sec or 60 or 600 sec voltage, current, harmonics, and so on. You can get 15-minute energy values, and you even can get a 2-hour flicker, long-term flicker reading. And now we introduced a vertical marker, which can be applied to a selection of more than 6,000 different values within the software. So you can choose whatever you want. And with the vertical marker, it synchronously compares all the measurement data. So, and it displays them on a legend on the right side. So you can see wherever your cursor is, it compares all of the measurement data that is shown here simultaneously at the exact same time. So I will show this to you. Yeah, let's just stay with this measurement file. I open the voltage. I also go for the current and just take the power, the active power. So 3 different readings, 3 different units. I just right-click into the diagram, activate the vertical marker, and now on the very right side, I see all the values changing. I can freeze the marker by left-clicking, and then I can open another measurement data or jump to other views and displays. I can also zoom in even more to get even more precise. And with another left click, right click, I can unfreeze. With another left click, of course, I can unfreeze the vertical marker. So this compares all the measured variables in one window. This is very convenient in many, many cases. You can do a screenshot and copy the image and insert this to a report, for example. So freeze and unfreeze with left clicking, and you can also deactivate the marker again. So here we got another very nice improvement and feature in WinPQ-Mobil. This is a very interesting story. For that, I want to tell you. So we were measuring in a residential area, in a very big house, wealthy inhabitants, and there was like swimming pool, hot tub, a very big area, and the whole house was intended to be prepared for blackouts. So if the utility cannot provide any electricity, the whole house should be supplied by an internal generator. And we had to do we performed some blackout tests, and then we discovered some very interesting things. So they had converters, they had a very big battery, and they had photovoltaic, and so many renewable energies, and a battery storage and a UPS system. So in this case, I jump right into the measurement file. I open this one. So I close all the windows. So it's a larger file, so it just takes a little while. And now I open the oscilloscope fault recorders, and I know that at 13:23 something was going on. I disable the currents first, and in this test, the utility, the grid, was inside the property disconnected, and then the inverter actually his job was to maintain the voltage and the frequency and everything, the whole electricity supply of the whole property. So the grid was disconnected, and then for a few seconds the inverter had to form the grid. So the question is, or was, is it really grid forming or not? So in this case, we see there was I see it, this one. Yeah. So in this case, there was at the very front. Oh, I think I got the wrong one. Let's check this one. Yeah, this one is the right one. So I see the voltage before disconnecting, and I see the voltage after disconnecting. So when zooming into the afterwards, I see something like that. And from optical view, it looks like, okay, is this really 120 degree between each phase? Well, now you can tell with the newly introduced phasor diagram. So I always recommend a custom range depending on your electricity grid. So either 1 period or 2 periods. So in the 50 Hertz net, I go for 20 milliseconds, 1 period. And I see this was before shutting down the utility, the infeed. And we almost got our 120 degrees. And then there was the disconnection, and afterwards the inverter tries to form its own grid. So at the very beginning it was kind of okay, but then suddenly everything was going really crazy, and I see that the voltages in here, for example, they are not 120 degree apart anymore. So this inverter was not grid forming by itself. And after a while, after 1 second, I think, it shut down because it recognized itself, okay, there's no three-phase system anymore, no perfect three-phase system. We got totally weird phase angles over here, 167 degree, 106 degree. And so the whole inverter and the whole system shut down, and there was no voltage at all. So blackout test, not positive. Single phase consumers, they didn't get affected severely by this situation because they only see one phase and the neutral, and one phase was still around 230 volts. But three-phase consumers, any motors or heat pump or so, they might get distracted by this situation and don't function anymore. So if you have a look at the current in this situation, before on the left side, the current on the neutral phase was almost zero. That's what you expect in a three-phase system. With every phase 120 degree apart, they compensate each other. If they do not compensate each other, and if they are not 120 degrees apart, your neutral conductor kind of goes crazy and it raises, and this is something you do not want to see. So I go back to the normal diagram. I separate, divide the axis. So the neutral current in here was very low, and at the very end, the neutral conductor was as high as the neutral current was as high as the phase currents because of the imbalance in the system. Another very good example is something. I have to look in here. So we measured in a 20 kV system, and we expected several earth short circuits. And this can be seen in an oscilloscope or in a timing diagram like that. This is the half cycle recorder and the oscilloscope recorder. So I have to check. It was this one. Yeah, this one is something I want to see. So you see, before the earth short circuit, the three phases were almost at the same amplitude. Then on phase 3, there was a short circuit against earth. So the voltage on phase 3 dropped to 0. And on the other hand, phase 1 and 2, they raised because of the shift of the virtual star point. So, and then afterwards, after the earth short circuit, it kind of healed and tried to go to a normal situation again. So in here I can activate the phase diagram as well. Before I disable the currents, I got my three-phase system, everything was fine. Then phase 3 kind of disappeared because the voltage was almost 0. And then after a while, the phasor appeared again, and the whole medium voltage system, after a few milliseconds, recovered and tried to get to a normal situation again. So the recorder is too short. If it would have been 4 seconds, at the very end, at the very right side, we could see a perfect three-phase system again. So this can be seen with the phasor diagram within the oscilloscope recorder now. So sometimes if you are especially doing some special tests with a short measuring interval and many recorders, you are questioning yourself, okay, the storage capacity of my PQ box, is it enough? So with WinPQ-Mobil 8, we display the expected minimum or the expected memory usage for your current setting. So now you can easily calculate, okay, with the settings I just applied, how long can I measure under normal conditions? And this is for the continuous measurement data. So you see, whenever you change the measuring interval, you immediately see the expected memory usage per day. On top of that, if you want to check the 3-second recording or the 200 millisecond recording as well, you will be immediately confronted with a pop-up that says, okay, if you check the 3-second reading with this setting, for example, in this PQ box, you can expect around 5 megabytes per hour additionally, or with 200 milliseconds, even more. So despite of the fact that the PQ box always reserves 2 GB for the fault records if you're going for the PQ box 150, 200 or 300. With the PQ box 50, that's just 500 megabytes because it's the half of the 1 GB internal storage capacity. And then you can see, okay, if you do not want to miss any fault records, the PQ box always reserves half of the storage size, if it's below 4 GB, for the fault records. If it's not used during the recording, you can it will use the remaining storage space for its permanent record. So this is good if you are questioning, well, will the remaining capacity of my PQ box, is this still enough? So in here, if I change my setting, for example, to 50 seconds, it will automatically change the expected memory usage. If I want to check the 200 millisecond, it provides me information that you get additionally approximately 80 megabytes per hour. So this is a lot. And with a 3-second reading, you get around 5 megabytes per hour on top of the 16 megabytes per day. So be careful with these two. Most of the time they're not necessary, but if you want to do a IEEE 519 report, you have to check the 3-second data, and your measuring interval has to be 600 seconds. So this is required by the IEEE 519. 600 seconds in here and the 3-second recording. It needs it to provide a report. So with WinPQ-Mobile 8, you always have the chance to select which data shall be evaluated. On top of that, now you can not only select which measurement data should be evaluated, so this can be done in the overview section at the very bottom of WinPQ-Mobile. You have these 2 orange bars on the left side, on the right side one, and you could drag them to any position you wish. And then you can refresh, and WinPQ-Mobile automatically uses the data between the 2 orange columns for evaluation. Now it's even possible to create a new measurement file with the settings you just did with the 2 orange bars. So you can cut your measurement file. This can be convenient in some situation. I will show you in a minute. You can change the duration. You can also say, well, I got a 23-day measurement file, but only 1 week is relevant. So you can jump to the day you want to start your evaluation and then enter another time, 7 days in advance, 7 days later, excuse me, and then you can create a new measurement file. I will show you how to do that. So I am going to open a measurement file. And in this measurement file, I just do a report and I see, oh, the frequency was bad. I just expected the supraharmonics to be bad. They are bad indeed, but the frequency, well, it should be fine. But I can see, oh, there's a frequency drop from 50 Hertz to 0 Hertz. And of course, yeah, that was when I closed the door and the voltage clamp on phase 1 just fell to the ground and was disconnected. So opening the door and reconnecting it solved the problem. But this kind of, yeah, causes the report look like that. So in the past, I showed a few times before, I was just changing the evaluation period. Click on refresh. And now WinPQ-Mobil does not consider the right part anymore. I click on creating a report again. So it's still fine. I need to go a bit further. Creating the report again. And now the voltage, the frequency drop disappeared. So this is for evaluation. Now I can even open the data converter and export this measurement data into a new one. So I can apply this, OK, and I can open the new measurement data, create new 22. I open this one and I immediately see, OK, from the very left to the very right, I got a reduced time period and all my measurement data is fine. So if you want to share this measurement data with colleagues or customers, it's better because you can get rid of unnecessary data, which does not help in many cases or which distracts in some cases. Sharing is also even easier now. After cutting, for example, you can easily create a zip file with just one click. So if you go to measurement data, I reduced the file, and now with clicking on the zip file, I can edit the output path and the folder name and compress the zip file. And then Windows automatically opens the file or selects the file, and you can send this via email or upload it to a cloud and share the measurement data. Very convenient. You can also select multiple measurements and put them into one zip file if necessary. Then we also introduced a new support ribbon at the very top, where you can easily access relevant data that might be necessary if you experience some issues or have some questions. Then you can find our contact details in the software itself, so you do not have to Google anymore. You can just click while viewing measurement data in WinPQ-Mobil. We also put the TeamViewer remote assistance functionality in this support tab. So with just opening the support ribbon, clicking on remote assistance via TeamViewer, a new window will pop up, and then you can share the ID and password with us, and we can have a look at your monitor and see and try to solve the problem or evaluate some data together. Sometimes if you open measurement data and see, okay, this looks, yeah, different than I expected. It's suspicious. So maybe ask Aebele whether this was measured correctly. We also introduced two log files that can be accessed very easy with just one click. So click on support and then log file with WinPQ-Mobil. You probably cannot see anything that is of interest, but for us, this is very useful, as well as the measurement log file of the PQ box itself. It's very useful for us if you experience something that is suspicious, and that when you look at the data, you see, okay, I'm not quite sure whether this is right. So we can provide even better support with these log files, and now it's very easy to access these log files. Maybe some of you in the past had an issue with the Windows DPI scaling. So if you open our oscilloscope fault record and the very top is cut off, or some graphs are displayed in a wrong position, the scaling is not useful, then it usually in the past had to do with the DPI scaling in Windows. So we got a workaround with just changing the DPI scaling override of the software in Windows settings. Now we got rid of this. So this problem was solved. We got a new graphics engine in the background in the software. So no more DPI Windows scaling problems. And on top of that, the graphics are clearer and sharper. So especially if you're working with a 4K monitor, for example, so the details, they are even more precise, they're sharper, clearer, so you get a better experience with the diagrams and graphs. And with the GPS location, now we did some minor improvements. You can easily enter just the name of a company, for example, and the software gets the address, the street, the house number from the internet, and helps you entering GPS location for your recording. So in some cases, it's very convenient to also save the GPS location of the PQ box while it's recording. So I will show you in WinPQ-Mobil itself. So I go to the setting, scheduled operation and GPS, and there I find a map. I can zoom out, zoom in, and I can select any location. I can put the PQ box anywhere I want. And now I can just enter, for example, Aebele, our company, and the software finds from online databases the right street number. So this is something that is very convenient, and I can even zoom in, zoom out. I can change the location as I want, and afterwards I can also find the location in the measurement file. So if I open a measurement file, for example this one, I can see where this was recorded. So I go to device settings, go to the operation and GPS tab, and there I can see the latitude and longitude where the PQ box was installed. So something I also want to show is when you want to access a PQ box. With the PQ box 150, 200 and 300, you are able to lock the screen when you leave, for example, the PQ box at the customer's site and you do not want to have the customer access your PQ box and change some parameters or stop the recording. With the PQ box 50, it was not possible in the past, but now it is possible. So I unplugged the PQbox 50. Now I plug in WinPQ-Mobil is searching for devices, and I didn't close the software, so I unlocked the PQbox already. So now I'm going to start the software again. And when I start WinPQ-Mobil software, it's automatically searching for PQ boxes in the background. And now I lock the PQ box 50 with a pin. And I cannot access the data without entering the pin. So I have to enter the right code, and then I can access the PQ box. If I don't enter the pin and click on cancel, I cannot access the measurement files, I cannot configure the PQ box, and I cannot do some online measurement live data. Okay, what's new with the PQ boxes? So let's start with the PQ box 50. With WinPQ-Mobil, we provide a free upgrade for all PQ box 50 expert models. In the past, you were able to measure up to the 50th harmonic, which is 2500 Hertz in the 50 Hertz grid or 3000 Hertz in the 60 Hertz grid. With WinPQ-Mobil and the firmware version 4.609, now you can measure up to 9 kilohertz. So when you have a PQ box 50 expert, you just simply need to update WinPQ-Mobil, install WinPQ-Mobil version 8, and also update the firmware version free of charge for your PQ box 50 expert, and then you can measure up to 9 kilohertz free of charge. So this is something that is incredible with the PQ box 50. Now we changed something in here, so now it's able to measure up to 9 kilohertz. You can find the readings, of course, of the voltage and the currents up to 9 kilohertz in the permanent record data, also in the live data view. You can see the superharmonic readings from 2 to 9 kilohertz, as well as the maximum values and the superharmonics of the currents from 2 to 9 kilohertz. This is a section that is defined by the standard from 2 kilohertz to 9 kilohertz. And with the current the same, the maximum values. On top of that, the PQ box is also able to read the highest and to record the highest sample value of the current wave shape. So this is important for calculating the K factor, for example, and you get the highest sampled measured value of the current of each phase as well. Of course, we got something for the PQBox 300 as well. So this is something regarding the high frequency module. You know, the PQBox is able to record super harmonics up to 150 kilohertz continuously and without gaps, according to the latest standard. In the past, you could only check or uncheck the high frequency module. Now, with the latest WinPQ-Mobil version 8, you can also set a little more parameters. So this looks very similar to the oscilloscope recorder tab or half cycle recorder tab, or similar to the transient tab of the PQBox 200. So now you can change the trigger thresholds. In the past, the high frequency module always triggered when phase 1 was kind of violated, and the envelope trigger of phase 1 was violated and triggered. So then every time you got a high frequency recorder, which also triggered the oscilloscope recorder, for example. So if you were measuring in an industrial grid with a lot of high frequency emissions, so your memory card of the PQ box was filled with tons of high frequency fault records. And this resulted in large measurement files. So now you can activate or deactivate and even adjust the trigger thresholds of each single phase of the high frequency module. And you can decide whether your high frequency card, the fastest, triggers a half cycle recorder or an oscilloscope recorder as well, or nothing. And you can also set an interval trigger. So if you want to see, okay, sometimes I want to just have a snapshot. So maybe every hour or every half hour, I want to get a snapshot to see what's going on in my grid. Then you can also check the interval trigger box and determine when the PQ box should perform an automated interval trigger. So this is new with the PQBox 300, new features. You get way more settings than before. And I hope you used the chat function to comment and to ask questions. So we will get back to you as soon as possible to answer all your questions by email. And now I'm glad to say goodbye, and I answered the 3 questions I promised to answer at the very beginning. And have a nice day. Thank you and bye. See you next time.